They laughed at him when he walked in through the back door. A skinny young man in a faded jacket, carrying a stack of pizza boxes, rain dripping from his hair onto the marble floor of the most expensive banquet hall in the city. Someone from the crowd actually said, "Watch where you're walking, delivery boy, you're getting the floor wet." Everyone laughed. Nobody asked his name. And nobody, not a single person in that glittering room full of expensive suits and champagne glasses, had any idea that they were talking to the man who had just signed the papers to buy the entire company they were celebrating. His name was Daniel Usu, and if you had seen him that evening, you would have made the same mistake everyone else did. Daniel was 29 years old, but life had pressed so much weight onto his shoulders that he sometimes felt twice that age. He grew up in a small apartment on the east side of the city, the kind of neighborhood where the streetlights flicker and never get fixed, where kids do their homework under the kitchen light because the bedroom doesn't have one. His mother, Grace, worked double shifts at a laundromat. His father had left when Daniel was 7. Not dramatically, not with a fight, he just didn't come back one evening. And that silence became the loudest sound of Daniel's childhood. But Grace, Grace was something else. She used to say to him every single morning before school, "Daniel, baby, you carry more than you know. Don't let this world make you forget that." He didn't fully understand what she meant back then. He does now. Daniel was brilliant, the kind of brilliant that doesn't announce itself. He didn't talk much in school. He sat in the back. He wore shoes that were a season too old. His classmates called him Ghost because he was so quiet, so easy to overlook. But while they were busy laughing at him, Daniel was reading business books from the library, finance articles online, case studies of companies that rose from nothing. He was building something inside his mind, quietly, invisibly, the way a river builds its strength underground before anyone ever sees it. At 18, he got a part-time job delivering food to fund a small online resale business. He started from his phone. At 21, he sold that business for $40,000, money nobody knew he had because he looked exactly the same. Same faded jacket, same quiet eyes. He reinvested every dollar. By 26, through a series of careful, almost invisible investments, Daniel Usu had accumulated a net worth that would make most people's jaws drop. But he didn't buy flashy cars. He didn't move to a bigger apartment right away. His mother was sick, her heart was giving her trouble, and every dollar he had went toward her treatment. Toward building the foundation of something much larger he was constructing in the background. He kept delivering food on weekends, not because he had to, but because it kept him grounded, because it reminded him of where he came from. Because, as he once told his lawyer, a confused but loyal man named Mr. Peterson, "I want to remember what it feels like to be invisible, so I never make someone else feel that way." Now, Hartwell and Associates was one of the most prestigious marketing firms in the city. Founded 40 years ago, it had built campaigns for global brands, made millionaires out of its top partners, and prided itself on a culture of exclusivity. If you didn't look the part, you didn't belong. The annual gala was their crown jewel. Held every year at the Grand Sterling Hotel, marble floors, crystal chandeliers, an open bar that cost more per bottle than most people's monthly rent. The guest list was curated. The dress code was strict. It was less a company party and more a performance, everyone showing everyone else how successful they were. What none of the 250 guests knew that evening was that Hartwell and Associates had been quietly bleeding money for 3 years. Bad investments, a leadership scandal that was hushed up, and a toxic company culture that had driven away half their best talent. The board had been desperately searching for a buyer. They found one. They just didn't know what he looked like. Daniel had asked his lawyer to keep his identity confidential until the formal announcement, which was scheduled for the following Monday. The deal had been signed that afternoon. The ink was barely dry. That evening, on a whim, or maybe something deeper than a whim, maybe fate has a sense of humor, the restaurant where Daniel still occasionally worked a shift got a large catering order. The Grand Sterling Hotel, a corporate gala, $400 worth of pizza for the staff quarters. Daniel took the delivery himself. He stood at the back entrance of the Grand Sterling, rain-soaked, his name badge reading simply Dan, carrying boxes that smelled of oregano and warm cheese. A hotel staff member pointed him through the service corridor. Go around the back, delivery entrance is left of the kitchen. But somewhere in the maze of hallways, Daniel made a wrong turn. He walked directly into the gala. The room went momentarily quiet, not out of respect, but out of the particular sharp silence that falls when something visually wrong enters a space that has been designed to be perfect. A wet delivery boy with pizza boxes standing in the middle of a $2,000 per plate corporate celebration. And then the laughter started. Oh my God, did someone order pizza? Security, please, there's a delivery boy who got lost. Careful, sweetheart. Don't drip on the floors. That last one came from Richard Hartwell III, grandson of the founder, current CEO, a man whose confidence existed in exact proportion to his cruelty. He was 52, silver-haired, and had never once in his life considered that the person in front of him might matter more than they appeared. He walked up to Daniel, actually walked up to him, and looked him up and down with a smile that had no warmth in it whatsoever. Son, he said, loud enough for the nearby tables to hear, the kitchen is that way, and next time use the service entrance. This room is for people who built something with their lives. More laughter. Daniel looked at him, quietly, steadily, the way a deep river looks at a stone thrown into it, barely a ripple. I'll remember that, Daniel said, and he smiled, a small, private smile that Richard Hartwell did not understand at all. He found the correct corridor, delivered the boxes, and left. Monday morning arrived gray and still. The board of Hartwell and Associates gathered in the main conference room on the 14th floor for what they were told was a formal introduction to the firm's new ownership. They wore their best. Richard Hartwell III sat at the head of the table, technically still CEO, until the transition was formalized, radiating the particular arrogance of a man who believed that whatever happened next, he would still be the most important person in the room. The door opened, and in walked Daniel Wusu. No pizza boxes this time. A clean, well-cut charcoal suit, his lawyer Mr. Peterson at his side, a leather portfolio under his arm. He looked different and exactly the same. Same quiet eyes, same steady calm, same man. Richard Hartwell's face did something complicated, his brow furrowed, his mouth opened slightly. The recognition was slow, like a fog lifting, and then it crashed into him all at once. That's the delivery boy from the... Good morning, Daniel said, taking his seat at the head of the table, Richard's seat, the seat Richard had already settled into. He said it simply, without theater. My name is Daniel Wusu. As of Friday afternoon, I am the majority owner of Hartwell and Associates. I'm glad to finally meet everyone formally. The room was a held breath. Mr. Peterson slid a bound document across the table. Acquisition papers, signed, verified, real. Richard Hartwell's silver face had gone the color of old paper. His hands, resting on the table, were very still. Around him, people were looking at each other, eyes wide, coffee cups frozen halfway to lips, the entire architecture of their assumptions crumbling silently. One of the junior partners, a young woman named Sophie who had been at the gala and had laughed along with everyone else, felt something cold move through her. She thought about the wet-haired boy with the pizza boxes. She thought about the way they had all laughed. She pressed her fingers to her mouth. I want to be clear, Daniel continued, his voice even measured, carrying no anger, that I have no interest in revenge. I'm not here to humiliate anyone. I'm here to rebuild something that has been losing its way for a long time. I believe in the people in this room. I believe this company can be something worth being proud of again. He paused. He looked at Richard Hartwell directly. Every person who walks through a door deserves to be treated as though they might matter, because they always do. That's the first policy change effective today. Richard Hartwell opened his mouth, closed it. For perhaps the first time in his 52 years, he had absolutely nothing to say. In the weeks that followed, the story spread, the way real stories do, quietly at first and then everywhere. The delivery boy who bought the company. The man everyone laughed at, who turned out to own the floor they were laughing on. Sophie came to Daniel's office one afternoon and stood in the doorway looking like someone carrying something heavy. I laughed, she said simply. I want you to know that I know that, and I'm sorry. Daniel looked up from his desk. I know, he said. Thank you for coming to say it. He offered her a position on the new leadership team. She took it. Richard Hartwell resigned. And Grace, Daniel's mother, the woman who pressed $20 bills into her son's hands and told him he carried more than he knew, sat in the front row at the company's reopening celebration 6 months later. Her heart condition managed, her eyes full of the kind of tears that have nothing to do with sadness. Her son stood at a podium in a room full of people who now knew exactly who he was, and he was still the same quiet boy who delivered pizza on rainy Friday evenings. He always had been. Here is what I want you to take from Daniel's story. The world will try to tell you what you are worth based on what you're wearing, what you're carrying, and what door you walk through. It will hand you labels before it learns your name. It will laugh before it listens. But worth, real worth, does not wait for permission to exist. It does not shrink because someone didn't recognize it. It does not disappear because someone laughed. It builds quietly and steadily in the background until the moment comes when the room falls silent and the truth walks in. Never judge a person by the box they're carrying. You don't know what they've already built.